All right, my name is Tanner Ross Gregory. I am Jesus Christ. Today is May the 23rd, 2026. Today I'm going to attempt to prove to you that I'm Jesus Christ as well as each of these key points listed above. All right, so the commands of Moses for people to stone each other to death for various acts such as prostitution or homosexuality, that was a bargain with our primitive urges of violence that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. Right? Jesus Christ's crucifixion was a means by which we were subdued in our willingness to continue proceeding with those violent commands. All right? So we had evolved past the point of those commands' usefulness. I see what happened in Jesus Christ. I cannot bring myself to do that any longer. All right? Jesus Christ put forward some commands on marriage. Those were a bargain with our primitive urges of sexual dominion that we would more readily adhere to a more ideal form of government. Right? So I can say this woman is my sexual property. I can say this man is my sexual property. In exchange, I will more readily go along with what you have to say about the government. All right. So what they did to me as Jesus Christ, in order to subdue you in your willingness to continue proceeding with those commands, is that they programmed me to become obsessed with this woman, made me see her having sex with all these people for days on end, made me see her getting raped, and had me running around yelling at people for what they made me see them do. Okay, that's why they call me the beast. It's like a ram butting its head into another ram in order to assert dominion, things like this. All right, so on December the 4th and December the 15th of 2020, I was made to see two separate women pregnant with my son from having had sex with different men. All right, so the date that falls directly in between these dates is December the 10th of 2020. However, because the women were already pregnant when they were revealed to me, and because a woman has her period once a month, if she misses her period, then she's pregnant, then the date that we're concerned with is November the 10th of 2020. All right. So in the book of Revelation, it says that the dragon was waiting to consume the child the moment that he was born, who would rule all the world with an iron scepter, but that the archangel Michael took the woman and the baby into the wilderness to be kept safe for 1,260 days. All right. So 9 months from November the 10th of 2020 is August the 10th of 2021, and 1,260 days from August the 10th of 2021 is Inauguration Day of 2024. All right, so the dragon represents necessary evil. It had already been explained to me during my crucifixion stage. It's cataloged in my book with the other events that happened during my crucifixion, that the dragon represented necessary evil. And so in this case, the reason that the dragon represents necessary evil is because they're saying that it would be a form of necessary evil to kill my son before he inherit all the power that I will receive to rule over this world as king. Okay, they actually had me anoint my head with oil during the crucifixion stage, so at some point I will be king, right? But I'm not just going to rule over you as king or anything like that. So myself and the alien intelligence worked for a period of a year to a year and a half developing a new libertarian constitution, put it all together with artificial intelligence and legal language, and artificial intelligence gave some good ideas as well, but it wasn't the lion's share of it or anything like that. But it essentially just means that I'm going to give you a new constitution. So, but you might be asking yourself, the 1,260 days sounds like a countdown. So what is this a countdown to? And so in the book of Revelation, it says that the Gentiles were allowed to march on the holy city for 42 months, but they've been assigned to the outer court. And then it says the first beast rules for 42 months as well. And then the second beast, the false prophet, makes miracles of fire come out of the sky in full view of the people. So what does this mean? It means that there's a certain group of people that's allowed to be here, but they have to leave within 42 months. If they refuse to leave, then a lot of them are going to end up being killed with airstrikes. Okay, and so what they're talking about is anyone who is not Caucasian, they're going to have deported from the United States of America. And we're going to rig up a situation for them where, they can only vote for white people, and our judicial system will assign their judicial system, and they'll have the same constitution. They'll end up in a better situation than we're in right now in the United States, but first and foremost, they're going to have them deported from the United States. And, all right, so there's another prophecy that has to do with the way that the 5 months that Noah spent in his ark correlates with the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation, okay? So the 5 months of scorpion stings in the book of Revelation is symbolic of the time I spent in Wise County Jail in 2021, all right? And so the aliens were orchestrating all this. They had me send out these messages. They kept repeating to me for a period of like a month to a month and a half, angering people, and I sent out these messages. I don't know why they keep repeating themselves, angering people, but the government understood that if they could stage a sex trafficking situation in California, that they could get biblical permission to use nuclear weapons on California because there's so many minorities in California that you couldn't even, using airstrikes to get that many people out would be impractical. And so when I first got out there, they kept repeating themselves over and over again, I want you to burn this place to the ground. I want you to burn this place to the ground. And then they repeatedly started to talk about Pizzagate and pizza and all this different kind of thing. Pizzagate was this big expose that proved that organized child sex trafficking was happening at the highest levels of government. All right, and you can look up the documentary Pizzagate, Pedogate by Titus Frost. It's several hours long. They took all of that information and wiped it off of YouTube because they didn't want people to know that, hey, yeah, we're taking your kids and raping them and killing them and all this kind of stuff. So why they're doing that is the same reason for, like in Egypt in the Old Testament. They came in and they said, we're going to do this because of the slaves. And they came in with the 10 plagues. They ended up, sending in locusts, sending in all these plagues, killing children and doing all this stuff. And then they introduced to them a very complex new system of rules and laws and government, okay? So what it does is whenever you take righteous indignation and you exact it against, someone like that at a divine level, then the end result is that the people are more galvanized to this new system of government. So they're going to use nuclear weapons on California. In addition to that, there's another prophecy that has to do with the suicide boys. They're the two olive trees from the book of Revelation. And so in the book of Revelation, it says the two olive trees will prophesy for 1,260 days, okay? Okay, so they released an album on August the 13th of 2021 called The Long-Term Effects of Suffering, right? And on the album cover, there's someone behind bars, they're in jumpsuits, there's someone throwing up blood into a metal toilet. It's a police officer. The other inmates found out it was a police officer. They poisoned his food. So they're talking about police going to jail, all right? So 1,260 days from August the 13th of 2021 is 3 days after Inauguration Day. So I thought, oh shit, so I worked for a period of a month or 2 months, only sleeping every other night, working all day and all night every single day to finalize the book. And then I sent it out to thousands of churches for 3 days, beginning on Inauguration Day and for 3 days after that until I ran through all my email addresses and everything else. And so after, 3 days after Inauguration Day came and went, there was no police in jail or anything like this. So I looked into the Old Testament where the two olive trees are first mentioned. And where the two olive trees are first mentioned, it talks about the final capstone being in the hand of Zerubbabel. And it talks about this flying scroll, So what it means is that the book would be finalized and sent out to all these people by 3 days after Inauguration Day, and that would set in motion a series of events that would end result in the police going to jail, okay? So, and you can assume it's probably having something to do with, the war on drugs or the criminalization of prostitution, all these black markets they create, that causes all these people to be killed. That's kidnapping, that's slavery. In the case of the criminalization of prostitution, women are ended up being sex trafficked because of this. So they've kidnapped people, they've enslaved people, and the end result was a bunch of fucking people got killed, But at the same time, the cops could be ignorant and the whole system's just collapsing. But it's another one of these situations where if I can do, divine retribution, exact divine retribution against one of your enemies, you'll be more likely to go along with this new system of government. And the new Constitution is hundreds of pages long, so some galvanization, might be in order for something like that. So.